So as many of us saw in the last couple seasons of The Expanse, asteroids play a major role in combat within the universe. So I figured today we'll take a look at the role that asteroids play in warfare. I'm Colin, and this is Sci-Fi Deep Dive. Remember, if you enjoyed this video, to head down below and hit that subscribe button. So while many of us are probably thinking of Marco's horrific attacks on the planet Earth, where he used asteroids very specifically as weapons of mass destruction, there are actually other instances before this that asteroids are used in combat. So I figured today we could take a closer look at exactly how we see asteroids deployed as weapons within the Expanse. So let's start all the way back in Season 1, where there was some not-so-subtle foreshadowing to the events later in the show, when we see asteroids used in combat for the first time, at least on screen. A Belter asteroid mining vessel is boarded by Martian Marines from the MCRN Scipio Africanus, a Morrigan-class patrol destroyer. These Marines shake down these Belters and ask for an unreasonable amount of money, an amount of money that would bankrupt the owner of the vessel, who is not very happy about this. So he decides to take matters into his own hands and carries out an attack against the Scipio Africanus, launching the shattered remains of the asteroid he was mining at the vessel. Now, it doesn't necessarily appear like this does a ton of damage to the Scipio Africanus, since there are some hints that it may be one of the ships that joins Marco's fleet later on, but it is still the first use of asteroids that we see on screen as weapons. The shattered remnants of this rock, by the way, seem to bounce off the hull of the Morrigan-class patrol destroyer, which returns fire with a single torpedo, which is more than enough to destroy this small mining vessel. So that's the first time on screen we see them used in combat. But we do see them used at a much greater scale and far more effectively by the Free Navy, a large OPA faction that is sort of the faction behind Marco Inaros. So now, with the first instance of asteroids being used in combat out of the way, let's talk about the one that all of us probably thought of first: Marco's attacks on Earth, using asteroids as devastating weapons of mass destruction. Now, this is probably the first use that comes to mind for most people. After all, asteroids can easily cause extinction-level events on planets. A large asteroid impacting a celestial body like Earth or Mars would carry with it enough kinetic energy to seriously change the ecosystem on that planet and likely render it uninhabitable for a short period of time. Now, to help defend Earth against asteroids like this, the UN had set up a robust defensive system, a series of railguns mounted to orbital platforms designed to engage incoming asteroids and destroy them before they could become a significant threat to the people of Earth. To get by these, Marco coated these asteroids in stealth composites from Mars. These made the asteroids nearly impossible to detect by the UN sensors, especially because these asteroids didn't give off any heat. They weren't, using drive systems like a starship. Instead, they were just cold, dark masses of rock hid behind very effective stealth composites. Now, it's noteworthy that instead of sending one massive rock, similar to the one that wiped out the dinosaurs, Marco sent a large number of smaller asteroids to get the job done. I say smaller, but these are still very large asteroids that are capable of doing significant amounts of damage, far greater than the scale of our largest atomic weapons. But still, as far as asteroids go, they're not the most devastating, massive asteroids that he could be throwing at us, and that leads me to wonder why. Well, one of the potential answers could be strength in numbers. The UN may detect a single stealth asteroid and be able to intercept it. They may even be able to intercept 2 or 3 of them. However, detecting 10 asteroids that are all coated in stealth composites is a much harder task. Now, if Marco had put all his work and energy into sending a single larger asteroid, yes, he could have easily wiped out the population of Earth and basically removed one of the inner factions from the system. But there would have been a far greater chance of the UN being able to prevent the attack in its entirety. But Marco's attack on Earth aside, there is a couple other instances where we see them used in combat, but there's another one that's very notable that I absolutely want to make sure I cover. And that's what we see during Marco's attack on the Ring Gate. The Ring Gate was originally guarded by a pair of Truman-class battleships and a Doniger-class battleship. To weaken these numbers at first, instead of sending his ships in to carry out the first wave of attacks, the first strike against these battleships is actually carried out by a swarm of cloaked micrometeorites. We see one of the Truman-class ships get absolutely shredded by a swarm of stealth meteorites. So before the battle had really even begun, 1/3 of the inner planet's forces had been destroyed. That seems like a pretty effective battle tactic if you ask me. But, well, asteroids may be fascinating, the weapon that Marco tried to use to win the final battle of his war was not asteroids, but instead railguns. And if you'd like to learn more about the railguns in the Expanse, I'll leave a link up here to my video on that. And I'd like you to let me know down in the comments whether you think it was smart for Marco to send a bunch of smaller-ish asteroids to Earth, or do you think he really should have just sent maybe 2 or 3 massive extinction-level asteroids towards us? And if you have anything you'd like to see me cover in the Expanse, leave it down below in the comments. Last but not least, if you enjoyed this video, head down below, hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the bell icon so you get notified when I upload new videos. So for Sci-Fi Deep Dive, I'm Colin, and I will see you next time.